I'm Patrick Brady.
And I'm Orion Breen, and this is Maine Better,
where we discuss community and connection for the Maine Better Transportation Association.
And with us today is Dr. Jay Allen, who is running for the U.S. House of Representatives in District 1 for Maine. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running?
Well, I'm a 23-year Army veteran, 26 years in medical practice as a family doctor. So the first 23 years in the Army, obviously. Been all over the world working for the Army. Some places I'd rather not go back to. But we've been here ever since I retired, so almost 4 years ago. Just happy to be serving here in Maine. The reason I got into this race to begin with was I took an oath to defend the Constitution, and I saw what was happening in Washington, D.C., and I don't think they're doing a good job of defending the Constitution. So I said, somebody needs to go down there and set these people straight. So I'm going to try to do what I can to set these people straight.
What brought you back to Maine?
We inherited a house, and we love Maine and sending anyone to live in that house. So that's why we ended up there. But we've been coming up here since 93, I think it was. The only medical license I've ever had was a Maine license. I got licensed in 96, 95, 96. And that's the only license I've had, because in the Army, you just have to have one license from any state, an unrestricted license. And so we knew we were coming to Maine eventually. I thought it was going to be after 3 years in the Army, ended up being 23 years in the Army.
What makes Maine special to you?
Just the natural beauty. We moved a lot growing up. We averaged about every 3 years in towns, but most towns were smaller towns. And we just like the small town atmosphere. We don't like big cities, both my wife and I. And so we wanted to move somewhere where it was more rural, but where we had access to some of the larger amenities like Boston and things like that. Maine is an ideal location. Plus, we like the people up here. We like the seafood. We like the culture. A lot of crafts. My wife is into spinning, knitting. So that's why we're here.
When you came up here to visit, what was the one restaurant or one destination you couldn't leave the state without stopping at?
Shaw's Wharf.
Shaw's Wharf. Where's that?
That's in New Harbor. That's about 3 miles from our house.
Takeout there, or what's there?
They do have takeout, but they also have indoor and outdoor seating. Actually, if you've seen the film Note in the Bottle with Kevin Costner and Robin Penn Wright, part of that was filmed in Shaw's Wharf, the restaurant there.
Huh.
And my mother-in-law's salt and pepper shaker appeared in that movie.
There must be a story behind that.
Well, basically, they wanted some unique-looking salt and pepper shakers, and so they came to my mom and said, "Hey, can you let us borrow your salt and pepper shaker?" And she said, "Yeah."
I've never been there. I'll have to add it to the list. What are some of the transportation challenges that you think the first district faces?
The biggest one, and the one most people here in Maine utilize, is the roads. And we have not done a good job of maintaining the roads. A lot of potholes in the roads, especially the one I drive to work every day, a lot of potholes. But even on Route 1, especially going through Bath, there's a lot of times where you'll see a lot of potholes. So that's the biggest issue, is maintaining the roads. But you have some unique problems here as well. I mean, you have the ferries. You don't see that in most states, but that's another thing that's vitally important to Maine's economy and to Maine people. And then as far as air transportation, we've got really one major airport that serves us pretty well, but we also have a lot of smaller airports. And then we have trains and buses as well. Most people don't use those, but between Portland and Boston, New York City, there is that hub as well. So I have used the Concord bus lines between Portland and Boston, and it's great being able to park in Portland and have them drop you off at the airport.
Is there anything that the federal government can do to help some of those challenges?
That's not an area that I have a lot of expertise in, so I'm not sure what the government would be able to help out with. I know they do provide a lot of funding for the roads and also other transportation as well. I'm not sure how much they get involved in the ferries, but I know that they do put a lot of money into like the trains and to the airports and things. There are things that they can do to help, but I'm not sure exactly how and what needs to be done.
For many years, both Republicans and Democrats have said they're in favor of a big infrastructure bill. Would you support that?
We clearly need help. I mean, we have not done a good job of maintaining our infrastructure here. I mean, you see areas where we've done some things, like the improvements in Bath, that was a great improvement. But even there, you still see some ongoing issues.
What's the worst road in your district?
Don't know for sure, but Route 32, which I drive every day, does have some issues. A lot of potholes. They are working on fixing it, but that's probably the worst road I see consistently. But Route 1 also has some issues too.
How is the access or maybe lack thereof, if that's the case, to transportation impacted you personally?
My perspective is that most of my life has been here in the United States, but I've spent a significant amount of time overseas. So a year and a half as missionary in France, 5 years in Germany with the Army, a year in Belgium with the Army, 3 years and 3 months in Italy with the Army. And so I've seen how the European nations do public transportation. The advantage they have, the population centers are larger and more closely associated. So it's easier to have intercity transport and intra-city transport. Here in Maine, we are so spread out that it's not economically feasible to have a robust public transportation system. And I'm not sure how to help out in terms of getting people back and forth when they have issues with transportation themselves. I know that there are a lot of ride-sharing programs, volunteer ride-sharing programs. There was this one lady that we were helping out getting back and forth to medical appointments, and there was a service that would come pick her up at her house, drive her down to Midcoast or even Portland for her appointments, and then drive her back home. So there are some programs out there.
On a more lighter note, what's your dream car?
Oh, I'm driving it now. A Volvo C70. So that's the Volvo convertible.
What's your favorite day trip?
I like going down to Pemaquid Point, and that's real close to us. So we get to go down there fairly frequently, but beautiful views. I like to photograph, so a great opportunity to get some photographs, and listen to the waves, listen to the seagulls.
We haven't done very many interviews, but I think we've already gotten 2 votes now for Pemaquid Point as a place for people to check out.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Allen.